The story of Thanksgiving begins not with the warm tradition of a family dinner, but with the brutal, chaotic consumerism of Black Friday in the small town of Plymouth, Massachusetts, the very birthplace of the holiday. The town is dominated by the massive Right Mart superstore, owned by the wealthy and influential Thomas family. The Thanksgiving celebration itself is shown briefly, dominated by the tension between the affluent store owner, Thomas Wright, and his wife, as well as the indifferent attitude of their daughter, Jessica Wright, and her close group of privileged friends, Ryan, Gabby, Evan, and Scuba. The true inciting incident occurs late on Thanksgiving night. Jessica and her friends are driving near Right Mart when they see a massive, unruly crowd already gathered outside, hours before the official Black Friday opening at midnight. Driven by a mischievous impulse and a desire to get a sought-after exclusive item, the group decides to sneak into the store through a side entrance near the delivery bay, using Jessica's father's name as leverage to distract a security guard. As they enter the store, they are immediately confronted by the overwhelming crowd outside, pressing against the main doors. A confrontation ensues when the store manager, attempting to maintain control, warns the crowd that they are risking safety by pushing against the glass. The presence of Jessica and her friends inside the store is noticed by the frustrated, aggressive crowd outside, who perceive the friends as getting an unfair advantage. This escalates the tension instantly. The mob, enraged and driven by insatiable consumer lust, bursts through the doors, shattering the glass and unleashing utter chaos. The initial rush is a stampede. Shoppers trample each other in a frantic surge toward the deals. The ensuing riot is not just a rush for products. It becomes a deadly free-for-all. Shelves are overturned, displays collapse, and amidst the pandemonium, several people are severely injured and killed. A security guard attempts to intervene but is overwhelmed. Among the victims are several prominent figures. A store employee named Amanda is dragged under a falling shelf and fatally crushed, and the wife of an honest, local man named Mitch is killed in the crush. Jessica and her friends manage to escape the carnage by hiding in a back room, but not before they witness the horror they inadvertently caused. 1 year later, as Thanksgiving approaches again, an ominous shadow falls over the group of teens responsible for opening the door. Jessica, now attending another school but back in Plymouth for the holiday, receives a chilling, anonymous message on social media. An image of the infamous baby face mask of the store's mascot, with the simple caption, "The axe must fall." The killer's identity remains unknown, but their actions are highly theatrical and pointed. They begin a public countdown to Thanksgiving Day, posting messages online and leaving gruesome displays. The entire town, already scarred by the massacre, is plunged into fear. The killer, now known as the Pilgrim, is clearly targeting the group of survivors who were present when the doors were opened. The focus shifts back to Jessica and her core group of friends, Ryan, Gabby, Evan, and Scuba. They start receiving personalized, menacing messages and strange packages. The local police, led by the stoic sheriff Eric Newland, struggle to piece together the evidence, finding only cryptic clues related to the first Thanksgiving and historical justice. Sheriff Newland, a former classmate of the victims, becomes personally invested in stopping the escalating violence. The killings continue, each one more elaborate and tied to the themes of a traditional Thanksgiving meal. Evan is abducted and tortured, his death meticulously staged as a brutal punishment for his role. The victims are not just the core group. The Pilgrim begins to eliminate peripheral individuals who were involved in or profited from the original massacre. The escalating danger drives a wedge between Jessica and her remaining friends, who accuse her of being the reason they are all targets, as it was her father's keycard they used. Jessica, however, refuses to be a passive victim. She begins her own desperate investigation, working alongside her new love interest, Bobby, and even consulting with Sheriff Newlin. They revisit the events of the Black Friday Massacre, realizing that the Pilgrim isn't just seeking revenge. They are seeking a specific, personal form of justice against those they deem responsible. The narrative introduces a crucial element, a witness who could identify the teens who opened the door. The climax of the film is set during the annual Thanksgiving Day parade in Plymouth. The Pilgrim plans a grand finale, a massive public display of vengeance. The remaining survivors, Jessica, Ryan, and Bobba, realize the killer is planning to stage a Thanksgiving dinner display with their loved ones as the victims. The true identity of the Pilgrim is initially obscured through misdirection. Suspicion falls heavily on several characters. Mitch, the grieving husband whose bitterness is palpable. Bobby, who seems almost too eager to help Jessica. And even Kathleen, Thomas Wright's secretary, who was a witness to the Black Friday Massacre. The final confrontation takes place in the restored Right Mart store, now empty and silent, serving as the stage for the Pilgrim's twisted dinner scene. Jessica, following a trail of clues, finds her mother and others tied up, prepared as a grotesque feast. The killer is waiting. The shocking reveal occurs when the Pilgrim is unmasked. It is Sheriff Eric Newlin. Newlin, the man who was leading the investigation, was secretly Mitch's brother, fueled by a deeply personal and consuming rage over the death of Mitch's wife and the lack of justice. Newlin had used his authority to steer the investigation away from himself and had access to all the crucial evidence. His motive was not just personal. He saw himself as a historical executioner, bringing the justice of the first, harsh Pilgrim settlers to a town corrupted by modern greed. In the final, brutal struggle, Jessica fights for her life and the lives of her family. Newlin, having staged the perfect Thanksgiving punishment, is defeated when Jessica uses the store's setting against him. She manages to knock him into a display of flammable materials and ignites them, setting the killer on fire. Newlin is engulfed in flames, finally succumbing to the fiery death he had planned for his victims. The film concludes with the community recovering from the second tragedy. The surviving teens are left traumatized, forever marked by the events of the Black Friday Massacre and the subsequent Pilgrim killings. Jessica, forever changed, visits her father in the hospital. The town of Plymouth is left with the unsettling question of whether true justice was ever served, and whether the darkness lurking beneath the surface of their quiet community will ever truly be quelled. The final shot lingers on the remains of the fire, hinting that while the specific Pilgrim killer is gone, the cyclical nature of violence and resentment in Plymouth may still fester.